So to start off, service line coverage is what we call an endorsement. It's an add-on to your current policy for homeowners. When you buy a homeowner's policy, they've recently added that in as something new. It's something that has creeped up a little bit as far as issues that they're seeing on home policies. And when a customer's not covered for something, that can be a problem. Well, if you're buying what's called an HO3 policy, that's a homeowner's policy, it's just a standard insurance policy, which is what most of you should have. You're only covered for the portions of that policy that's listed on the policy. So when things come up like a service line breaks or whatnot, then it's not covered. It's a little bit different if you're doing what's called an HO5 policy, which is a little bit more open peril. We're not going to get too heavy into that in this video, but if you guys are interested in that, I am working on one that will explain that as well. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when that goes live. So service line coverage is pretty basic. There's not a whole lot to know about it. It's anything that is a utility coming to your house. You've got your home, you've got your property, and you've got the street. And once you hit your property line, anything under the ground, above the ground, whatever the case is on your property is in your liability risk. If a pipe were to break underneath the ground that supplies, it's a utility line that's supplying to your home, then it's not covered. It's just normally not a thing that happened. And as homes get older, we're going to notice that happens more and more. I'm going to give you two examples. The most common way that you're going to see this be claimed is you have trees. Most people have trees in their yard, and what happens is the trees grow. They don't necessarily get larger or wider, but underneath the ground, their roots grow further and farther out throughout your yard. And that's where you see them try to break into the wall in the basement or whatnot. Well, if you're unlucky, and I've actually gone through this myself, is it will break through your pipes. So if you have your home and a service line going out to the road, and a tree will slowly grow into that pipe, and it typically blocks the water, slows it, and then it jams up anything, and then the water backs up into your house. Well, the water backup portion talked about in this video, we'll go over whether you're covered for that or not, but the actual service line, now you've got to dig up all of the ground in that pipe, pull that whole pipe out, and put a new one in. You're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. Another example is if you're just digging up a garden bed or you're digging something around and for some reason the electrical line is there and you hit that line, hopefully you're not electrocuted, but you cut the power off to the house. Now you've got to pay an electrician to come out, fix it. You've got to get surveyors and everything like redone nowadays with the right code. Same thing for your cable line. If you accidentally nick the cable line that goes from the street to your house, the cable company is going to charge you to come out there. And they are not cheap. I actually tried to run a cable back when we lived in the country for about a quarter of a mile distance, and they wanted over $3,000. I think it was closer to $5,000 just to run that line because it's not in their normal service area, and they pay a lot of money for the layer and the cable and the connecting it and the testing it and all of that fun, exciting stuff. It comes out of your pocket if that's the case. So how much does this typically cost? Well, it's actually not very expensive because this isn't a common thing to happen. It's happening more and more, which I'll actually explain in just a moment why, but the cost of it is pretty inexpensive. If you're getting the typical $10,000 coverage, which is where they start, you're going to pay roughly about $30 to $50 depending on the company that you go with. On the high end, you're going to pay about $70 to $80 per year, but now we're diving into more of that $25,000 plus coverage. You usually don't need more than that because it's not normal that you're going to pay more than $25,000 to have somebody dig up a line or fix a broken pipe or anything like that. So why has this all of a sudden become a thing? And why are people starting to look into this as a possible claim? A lot of the homes in certain neighborhoods have become to the age where they're starting to have deterioration. A lot of the pipes were clay pipes. They were these tubes that were fragile. And what happens as the ground shifts, that's another piece of it, is or if somebody has to do work on the house and they drive a truck over the grass and that collapses that pipe because it can't hold all of the weight. And so that's something that's commonly starting to happen where these older homes are starting to get that. Your newer homes, if they're doing the standard PVC piping, you're not likely going to have that issue. I personally did because I actually had a sump pump that failed Turns out it was actually a tree that still grew into the PVC pipes. So it's not impossible to happen, but it is less likely for that to crack and break and a tree to go through it versus having like a clay pipe, which is actually a very common thing for older homes to have. If you do have clay piping in your home, you can expect that it should have been replaced 50 to 60 years past the day that it was installed. That's the life of those pipes. PVC pipes last up to 100 years. So that shows you kind of the difference between the two and when you shouldn't or should need that service line coverage. Some other things that this covers is wear and tear. So that's actually a very nice thing to have, is if over time those pipes just deteriorate and break, you've got that coverage that you can get it dug up and fixed. It covers rodents, if your pipes freeze, rust and corrosion, which is popular, and then tree, which is obviously the biggest thing. The only time it's not normally covered is if it's the septic system, or if it's a gas, or if it's a electrical system that's not connected yet. Those are some of the reasons they wouldn't have that even with the service line coverage. So if you're looking for those specifically, this may not be the right option for you. Either way, it does make sense to talk to your agent if you're interested in this coverage. One, to see the cost that that company does, and two, to find out if the situations you're thinking of are typically excluded or included. Hey guys, I hope this was helpful. If you guys got value out of this, if you could smash the like button, subscribe if you're interested in learning more about tips and tricks for home and auto insurance. Saves you time and money. If you also want to buy me a cup of coffee, I've appreciated the last few people that have to contribute to the channel. I'll put a link down there below. I also have some of the notes for some of the things that we talked about here and a link to a post that I may write a blog on it as well. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.